Previously on the Engineering Year-End Review. My wife and I moved back to Fort Walton Beach in March of 2021, and I immediately started cleaning up and repairing lighting, the building access system, the music room, and the rack room. I restored another set of tower beacons to display in the rack room. We introduced 2 new radio stations. We rewired the satellite dish, rebuilt part of the fence, and cleaned up the rest of the grounds. Built a new remote broadcast table for Florida Man Radio. Then at the tower site, we replaced the main antenna, replaced the main coax, installed a new dehydrator, and built these terminal block panels for new connections to the remote controls. At the end of last year's video, we had kicked off our annual Bikes or Bust promotion, and we had just decorated for Christmas in Fort Walton Beach. Hi, I'm Randy Gardner, Director of Engineering for JVC Broadcasting. This is Otis, and this is the Engineering Year-End Review for 2022. How is that? This is my 4th annual year-end video showing the highlights of the previous year from the engineering perspective. Much of 2021 was cleaning up and straightening up in Fort Walton Beach. At the end of last year, after we had emptied our storage building of all of the Christmas decorations and supplies for our annual Bikes or Bust promotion, our chief remote tech, Ski, and I decided it was the perfect time to clean out that storage shed. We filled a 20 or 30-yard dumpster from that building and from another storage space on the property that had been holding several cases of canned soda. The cans had erupted and made everything sticky. When we started picking up the cases of soda, the floor tile came up with it. Both areas are in much better condition now, and as for the Bikes or Bust promotion, it was another huge success. Bo Reynolds from Mornings on Highway 98 Country is going to spend 98 hours on the scissor lift this year for Bikes or Bust 2022. Now, the next project was a little different. I performed my first live broadcast in 20 or so years for the grand opening of the Trump store in Panama City on Florida Man Radio. I thought it went okay. I hear some people thought I did a great job.
All over the world they're talking about it. All over the world.
I was a bit rusty, but you may not know that I have been rusty before. Now back in my lane, the rack room was running just a little warmer than I liked. This project was an effort to pull cooler air into and through the rack room. The blower pushing air out and the fan pulling cooler air in from the hallway lowered the temperature in the rack room about 4 to 7 degrees, depending on if we were running AC or heat in the rest of the building. This little project probably went unnoticed by most. It was at first an effort to resolve a timing issue with the Bubba the Love Sponge show. Every time they go to break, they say something like, "The Bubba Radio Network will be right back after this." What we were hearing was, "The Bubba Radio Network will be right," and then the commercials would start to play. These little relay circuits have many modes. I have this one set to wait 2 seconds before it fires the brake, so we hear all of the message before the commercials start to play. The other relays are set for the various commercial break lengths for all of our locally produced shows to control a digital recorder. This provides us with daily recordings of each show segment. The end result, we always have backup audio in the event that we have internet or equipment failures. Another short little project in 2022 was the lighting in the sales area. I replaced every bulb in the sales cubicle area. Here you can see the difference as I have replaced half of the fluorescent bulbs. The lighting on the left is clean and white, while the right side of the room is dingy and yellow from bulbs that were installed nearly 10 years ago. We were fortunate to have avoided any major storms in Fort Walton Beach in 2022. However, at some point we were struck with enough wind to take the awning from one of the second floor windows. That thing flipped over the parapet wall and slid across the roof, where it jabbed a few holes in the roof before it flipped off the backside into the neighbor's yard. I cleaned each of the damaged areas and repaired the roof with Flex Seal tape, just like you see on TV. So far, it's worked great. "2022 was also the start of some major projects in Orlando. Otis and I spent many hours on the road, making about 8 trips to Orlando. We always tried to arrive well prepared to live in a motel room for a week or so. On Tuesdays, Jonathan Morris would often bring steaks, chops, or chicken when he arrived for his weekly segment on The Shannon Burke Show. On one occasion, we discussed what groceries I had in the hotel room that might go with this huge ribeye he was giving me. We came up with this. The first big project for Orlando was a complete relocation and overhaul of their rack room. The wiring in the existing room had become old, cluttered, and tangled. There were also several pieces of equipment that were no longer in use or even functional. I did most of the planning and a lot of the prep work back in Fort Walton Beach. I made diagrams for each of the new racks. I made diagrams to show how the audio would flow. I made custom audio cables as well as custom cables for all of the relay closures. I also made this punch block panel to serve as a wiring hub for the new Orlando rack room. Once completed, as with most overhaul projects, there are always a few bugs to work out. Usually you'll find a bad punch or a faulty connection. We had an issue that we could not figure out for a while. Seems someone failed to punch down 3 cables completely on this project. Once completed, I was not only proud of the room, it makes things easier to troubleshoot and maintain. I also now have pictures and plans I created to build the new rack room posted over my desk in Fort Walton Beach. This allows me to help someone in Orlando by phone locate a piece of equipment or troubleshoot a problem. All is working well now, and though I'm calling this project completed, more upgrades and updates are coming very soon. A weekend project for me in Orlando was a house sound system. Now, it's not a loud or booming audio system, but it does allow station audio to be heard throughout the workplace. Another big project for Orlando in 2022 was the Local Area Network, or the Network Closet, as I've come to call it. There are 3 internet service providers for the stations in Orlando, and each one enters the building here, as well as Cat 5 runs to every other room and desk in the building. One by one, I took each piece of equipment and mounted it to the wall or in the rack. I also took every cable out and either found or made a custom cable to length. It was a time-consuming process, and it takes a while to even realize you're making a difference. Much like the rack room, it's cleaner, it's neater, and easier to work on and troubleshoot. Plus, it just looks better. Another big project for everyone in Orlando for 2022 was the creation and introduction of a brand new radio station, Fly 1031.
This track is hot. The new Fly 1031 is I'm good, yeah, I'm feeling alright.
Orlando's
Hottest one.
hit music.
This is your station, Orlando. Custom built just for you.
The new Fly 1031.
One of the features on Fly is a daily mix show. Now, doing a mix show requires the right equipment. Here it is, ready to go, and with the current supply and demand problems, frankly, we were lucky to get one. Back in Fort Walton Beach, we added 2 new automation machines. We have brand new next-gen machines in each of our production rooms. I was especially glad to replace the aging machine that performs all of the background work for our automation system, like merging logs and automatically downloading shows from the various FTP sites. Through all of the upgrades and projects, business and promotions continue. Remotes most every week and weekend for some stations like Highway 98 Country and Rock 92.1. Florida Man Radio also made 2 appearances this year in Fort Walton Beach. The Shannon Burke Show was live from the Weekend Marina in July and for Bike Fest at Emerald Coast Harley-Davidson in October. Now, this project was out of sight and out of mind for most, but it was a crisis for a few weeks for me. We were in the middle of summer and air conditioners were dying like crazy at the tower site. Our transmitters are located in 2 different buildings at the tower site. Each building has 3 big air conditioners, and at one point, we had only 1 working unit in each of these buildings, and of course it was running non-stop for several days. I tried to help the situation by building this hood and blower for one of our transmitters. It throws out a lot of heat. This helped a little, but it wasn't enough. For about a week, I was getting up in the middle of the night to turn off some of our transmitters between 1 and 5 a.m. to prevent a complete meltdown. Finally, the company that owns the tower site had everything worked out to buy 2 new 5-ton AC units for each of our 2 buildings. To rush things along, I agreed to do the required electrical work and prep work. Now we have 2 new and 1 nearly new AC unit in each of the buildings where our transmitters live, and I really don't expect any cooling issues in 2023. Now we're going to change gears pretty hard, as some projects are not as fun or technical as others. We hosted a Chamber After Hours event this year in Fort Walton Beach, and we wanted the place to look as nice as possible, and one serious problem area was the restrooms. I volunteered. A bucket, mop, Scotch-Brite pads, and thick rubber gloves did the job. I don't think I'll volunteer for that job again, but it did make a huge difference, and I can safely say it was appreciated. Our very own JT from Rock 92.1 and Beach Pressure Washing cleaned up the outside of the place. Our business after hours was a complete success and a lot of fun with the Fort Walton Beach Chamber of Commerce. Back in Orlando, they were being visited by Ian. Power went out, but the generators kicked in. Some internet went out, but not all. So for the most part, our stations stayed on the air. But there ain't no stopping no water when it want to go. The water didn't stay long, but it was about 3 inches deep in about half of the JVC Broadcasting suite. Luckily, it did not get into any of the studios, but the bottom 2 feet of drywall had to be taken out in about half the rooms, plus most of the furniture and all of the carpet was removed. And about the time Orlando was getting everything out, Fort Walton Beach was struggling through the installation of a new telephone system. I mean, the phones are cool enough, but the entire project hit several snags. In short, the vendor blamed Cox Media. Cox blamed the vendor or someone else at Cox. In short, all the bugs are still not worked out of that project. Now, regardless of what other projects might be happening, when a station goes off the air, nothing else matters for the moment. Oftentimes, a reset or reboot or even a Fonzie jukebox punch will fix things, but once in a while, you hit the power button and... Luckily, we do have a backup transmitter that will get any one of our stations back on the air for the moment. But the main transmitter is required for full power and full coverage. 1021 The Wave gave us problems a couple of times in 2022. On one occasion, lightning took out these capacitors in the power amplifier. On another occasion, we had a shorted plate blocker. Here, our engineering friend Jeff is wrapping the plate blocker's intersection with Kapton sheeting. The old sheeting was damaged by arcing. This may have been caused by lightning or even a piece of trash. But once this repair was completed, the transmitter came up nice and strong and has been steady at full power ever since. There is also general maintenance that has to be done. The transmitter for Highway 98 Country needed a new tube, as the output had slowly been dropping lower and lower. It's easy to see here which one is new. On some transmitters, this is much more complicated. On this model, you simply turn off the power, open the back door, remove the cover from the power amplifier or PA cabinet, pull out the old tube, drop in the new tube, close it back up, tube change complete. Next, we let this new tube warm for a couple of hours and then turn it back on. We raise power little by little, tune it back up to full power. It's an expensive repair, but a simple one. From toilets to transmitters, it was a busy and eventful year for JVC Broadcasting. It was also not all work and no play.
I'll stop and check out the hook when my DJ reminds me. My radio station engineer is much more of a badass than yours.
I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you to everyone in the engineering department for Florida. John Caraccioli, CEO for JVC Broadcasting and part-time engineer. Bill Sullivan, engineer and IT support for Orlando. Justin Allen with Destin Enterprise Systems, IT support for Walton Beach. And a big thank you to Jeff Baxter. Jeff is always quick to jump in at the tower site anytime Otis and I are out of town or just anytime I ask. Speaking of Otis, and while I'm thanking everyone like this is an acceptance speech, thank you to most everyone at JVC Broadcasting in Fort Walton Beach and in Orlando for the way you have taken in this little guy. Once again, thanks for watching. We have big plans next year for all of the Florida markets as we look to make 2023 an even more successful year for all of us at JVC Broadcasting. Be-do.